This may be my most important video I have ever made on the topic of Britney, so I beg of you, if you care about Britney Spears at all, please listen to this through the end. Whether or not you believe Britney is free or not is irrelevant to this video. We need to talk about her book. We need to talk about the systemic silencing of Britney Spears and her story. And it goes so much deeper than you think. I'm going to start right here. In January of 2022, Jamie Lynn Spears was able to publish her tell-all memoir. And in it, she painted her sister as crazy and said that Britney locked her in a room with a knife and scared her and other things like that that painted Britney in a very bad light. As you might imagine, that did not sit well with Britney, who has been itching to tell her story and talking about that since 2021. So the next month, February of 2022, Britney Spears signed her own book deal with Simon & Schuster and got one of the biggest advances of a book deal that anyone has ever gotten behind the Obamas. She wanted to tell her side of the story and be heard, and if you've been following me, you know that she said you've only heard the half of it, and that her lawyer Rosengart told her she was not allowed to tell the public about what was done to her during the conservatorship. But all of a sudden now, she is allowed to talk about it, and she's gotten a $15 million book advance to speak. So let's talk about what goes into a publishing deal, especially for something like rights to a story, like your life story. One thing common in most all book deals are going to be exclusivity, language, format, territory, and term, the rights. So let's talk about exclusivity. It is extremely likely that there would have been an exclusivity clause in Britney Spears' book deal that says she does not have the right to tell this story or print it to anybody else other than Simon & Schuster. And the term of those exclusive rights would usually be the lifetime plus 70 years. Now listen, I do not know the exact terms that Britney Spears signed in her contract, but I know that these are basic terms, and she definitely gave Simon & Schuster the exclusive right to this memoir and her life story. For how long? I don't know. What I do know is that Britney alleged that her book was done in July of 2022 and would be published by the end of the year, and she said she wrote 3 versions of it. In an Instagram post that has since been deleted, the star expressed her excitement about having the chance to have her version of the story shared. Well, I'm writing a book at this moment, and it's actually healing and therapeutic. It's also hard bringing up the past events in my life. I've never been able to express openly. I can only imagine that I do sound childish, but I was extremely young with those events that took place. So if you're following along, Britney got a book deal. She was thrilled to finally be able to tell her side of the story, and she likely signed away her rights to tell it to anybody else and took a $15 million advance, which means she's locked in. Very shortly after the completion of her book, TMZ is the first to publish this story on July 30th, 2022, that Britney Spears' book is done, but there's no paper to print it on. They claim that a paper shortage is to blame here, and they just can't do it. Meanwhile, thousands of other books are published. And at Simon & Schuster alone, according to WTF Anon, who did an amazing video on this, they published like 300 books in this quarter. And I know I've brought this up before, but I just want to redirect your attention to this post that Britney made in May of 2022 about how she had written 133 pages of a poetry book back in the day. She went on tour, came back, and it was gone from her. And she never saw it again. And also to this post that she made in July of 2022, right after she finished her book. She talks about her love of the song SOS by Andilla, and we've all seen her dance to it multiple times, but read what's in this caption. First of all, she brings up To Kill a Mockingbird. And if you know anything about that story, it's about how the legal system exploits innocent people, and how even if you're right, and even if you are telling your story, you can be silenced. She goes on to talk about what her interpretation of the song SOS is, because it's in French, and she doesn't speak French. And she says she feels like they're saying, "She took my banner, I called my own." And she concludes it with, "Because I like to be heard, even if only one person hears me, that's fine, as long as I feel heard." I think it's highly possible here that Britney Spears is talking about them taking her banner, her book. They took her book. They took her story. Britney signed away her rights to her own story to a publisher. Legally, they own that story. They own that book now, and everything in it. And look at this article from July 13th. This said Britney Spears may lose her book deal after continually doing what? After talking about her story on social media and airing out her dirty laundry and controversy to her fans for free. They say, why would anybody want to buy the book if she's blabbing for free on social media? So now Britney is in a situation where she's been itching to speak out for years and finally got the ability to speak out, and they're telling her, oh, we own the rights to this now. You can't actually speak out on this, or we might take away your book deal or sue you or some other kind of legal ramifications. And just in this same week, we hear, oh, there's a paper shortage. The book is not coming. And then I want to turn your attention to this post that Britney made in October of 2022, a few months later. Britney starts talking about something she calls upper world crime. She posted this meme below, and then she wrote a caption, which I'll go over. She says, upper world crime includes law-breaking acts committed by those who, due to their position in the social structure, have obtained specialized kinds of occupational slots essential for the commission of these offenses. And in her caption, she says, okay, so maybe we're talking about higher intellectual candidates that have whatever it might be, power, money, or fame. I'm not sure I've ever taken advantage of playing this game. I mean, just this year at 40, I can buy Tylenol and my own money. But it's eye-opening to see what people can do. My family owned my estate for years. They owned my name, my star, my money, and guess what? I gave them lots of power. Anyway, since it's been over, I have to relearn how to live my life. Further down, she says, I can actually see people every day of my life doing exactly what the paragraph above says. She's talking about the upper world crime definition, okay? People are getting away with these things, and it's obvious. And not one person will say anything. Okay, where is this going? I feel like I've been programmed to be a nun half my life. Can anybody out there, for the love of God, teach me how to lie at least? Oh, and there's this post too, from July 14th, 2022, which, as you know, is when she finished her book, and she is flicking the camera off, and this is clearly a Great Gatsby reference. Look at this. I think Britney knew her book was not coming. And by January of 2023, we start getting posts like this, where she says, play or read. So this is just my opinion based off of what I've been seeing, and I hope to be proven wrong. But I think by this point, it had been made clear to Britney Spears her story would never be shared, her book would never be published, and now her rights to tell that story were signed away from her. I hope to God I'm wrong. I want the book. Where's the book? There's literally no discussion of when it's coming at this point. We haven't heard anything real since the paper shortage thing, which came from TMZ, which should already raise a red flag for you. So if you care about Britney Spears and you care about hearing her story in her own words that she was so desperate to tell for so many years, I ask you, repost this, post your own content, tag Simon & Schuster, ask them, where's Britney's book? There needs to be pressure on this situation. Let's get some answers on where this book is and why we're not getting it. And does that have something to do with this upper world crime Britney Spears posted about that was deleted? Was she trying to tell us that the legal system is against her? Was she trying to tell us that she was being silenced by bigger forces? We haven't been listening. We've been paying attention to the glitches in her video and the social media circus, but we haven't been listening to her story, which is in that book. Hashtag, where's Britney's book?